Wow, I can't believe it's my 100th video already, and my channel's almost a decade old, so you know what, I'll do a commentary to celebrate. But what should I do it on?
Hey, there's this video you should so commentate on. It's called Stupid Movies That Are Surprisingly Progressive.
I don't know, that video's pretty old, but...
Just do it. They say some really stupid shit in this.
Well, okay. I mean, I might as well, since no one else has covered this one that I know of. Thanks, Leo.
No problem, ARC.
So, let's dive right into this, shall we? Cue the intro!
You down, you can try but you can't stop it cause I'm gaining ground. I'm light on my feet and I'm quick to the punch. I had a heavy breakfast but a real light lunch. I'm a raging bonfire, a cherry bomb, I'm me.
Hey guys, this is ARC the Clarinet Master, and I'm back with another commentary. Last time, I said I was planning to make commentaries on SJWs. And for those who don't know, SJWs, or social justice warriors, are people who zealously fight to end discrimination, but often end up being discriminatory themselves, make ridiculously stupid arguments with no sense of logic, and are often counterproductive to the causes they fight for. Today's commentary is on Crack.com's Stupid Movies That Are Surprisingly Progressive, since there is just so much wrong with that video that I simply have to cover it. Essentially, what they're doing is, they're discussing a bunch of female characters in media, including Animaniacs, Clueless, and Super Troopers, and gushing about how progressive they are. Now, I have no problem with the presence of female characters who are well written, entertaining, and just downright complex and relatable. In fact, I'm 100% for it, being the egalitarian that I am. But the problem is that these guys are making such a big deal out of the fact that women are doing something with their lives, and therefore only furthering women's minority status by making femaleness out to be something special. They're basically saying, "Yay! You wrote a complex female character! You deserve a gold star!" And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't women want to be treated as equals? Isn't being a woman just normal to them, and therefore we should treat it as such? After all, the whole point of feminism is for women to be treated as equals, so why don't we adhere to that? Anyway, you get the picture. Now, before I begin, I'd just like to point out a few things. I actually shared the initial draft of my script on Skype with fellow commentator Ski Hound, so that he could proofread it, and he brought up some decent points I never even thought of. Unfortunately, he's too busy to do a co-op with me, so instead I'll just paraphrase the points he brought up, whilst elaborating from my own perspective. And to indicate when I'm quoting Ski Hound, I'll switch my avatar to Ryuko Matoi from Kill La Kill, one of Ski Hound's own avatars. But when I'm speaking my own points, I'll switch back to Esmeralda from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So, with that out of the way, let's dive in and see the specifics of why this video fails hard at empowering women. Right off the bat, you can see the first problem with this video. The subscription annotation is tucked away in the corner, where no one will probably notice it. Yep, we're in some professional, high-quality entertainment tonight. I know it's a nitpick, but when you make amateurish mistakes like this, I can't help but question if you actually care about the quality of your presentation. I guess you could argue that putting it near the play button will draw more attention to it, but most viewers will probably just gloss over that since it's a pretty cramped space to put any important information. And plus, the video plays automatically when you start it up, so most people won't think to click the play button to begin with. So already we can see you didn't plan this through hard enough. But this is merely the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. It just gets cringier from here, so if you have any bath bags lying around, I would suggest you have them at the ready.
I'm just saying it's nice to see a movie where "we are not objects" is written in big off bold letters on a wall. It's refreshing.
And that pregnant woman kicked ass. You don't see that all the time, pregnant woman kicking ass.
You mean, a woman actually does something and isn't just a piece of eye candy or a fragile little damsel that needs rescuing? Wow, that's such a brilliant idea. I'm surprised no one's already done that. Oh, except for Kim Possible, Maggie Pesky, CJ the DJ, Dot, Mona the Vampire, Isabella and the Fireside Girls, Elise, Mulan, Belle, Ariel, Rapunzel, Anna, Elsa, Lisa Simpson, Taranga Leela, The Crystal Gems, Lara Croft, Samus, Merida, Riley Anderson, Joy and Sadness, Eliza Thornberry, Abigail from Once Upon a Forest, and heck, just look at my avatar. And what's this? It appears that our top scientists at the Museum of Paleontology have recently discovered a new specimen, which they have named Microdria. They believe Microdria was a tomboy, specializing in a stereotypical boyish lifestyle and mainly partaking in boyish activities like reading comics, fishing, inventing, and being just downright unladylike, similar to the modern day Riley Anderson.
I ain't talking. I ain't no stool pigeon, see?
You can find out more about her in our award-winning documentary, Walking with Tunosaurs. Yeah, there's never been a female character that was fleshed out, entertaining, and didn't exist solely in relation to men, like ever. But in all seriousness, you guys are talking about strong female leads like they're a newfound concept. Now that they're pretty much all around us in both the literal kick-ass form and the broader sense of being well-written and relatable, don't you think it would make more sense to treat female characters as though they're completely 100% normal? Because that's what it is to women, right? Right? Also, about the pregnant woman kicking ass, I'm not going to argue on the logistics of pregnant women's combat abilities, since I know I'll get tons of flack no matter which side I take. But I will say it's a fairly common trope in fiction, which again, you are failing to recognize. Don't believe me? Just go to TV tropes and search for pregnant badass and you'll see dozens of examples from various types of media, where pregnant women can put up a good fight. It's just a matter of seeking and finding. You know, doing research.
I just don't get why everyone thinks Mad Max Fury Road is some big old feminist masterpiece. Mistress piece?
I feel the exact same way, Michael. You know, it's pretty bad when your straw man is the most likable character.
Point is, lots of movies have women in them.
Michael, do you think that feminism is just something having a lot of ladies in it?
Yeah, I do, Katie, because I'm a super convenient straw man for your argument, you wish.
So you're basically admitting that you're fighting a straw man? You know, if I were you, that's probably the point where I would rethink my argument just a bit. Just saying.
I'm just saying, it's 2015 now. You know, the women should have to do something in the movie. 2014 was years ago.
You know, because that's what girls want.
That's why I love Kill Bill. Your lead is a badass woman. In fact, the whole Deadly Viper Assassination Squad is badass women, except Bud. Man, what a bitchin' feminist movie, right?
Actually, that's another thing I want to bring up. Why does every female protagonist have to be a badass warrior? I know they bring this up immediately afterwards, but I just want to explain this in further detail. I mean, I'm not against women being strong and kicking ass, if my avatar and a lot of the female leads I listed off earlier are any indication. But is that the only way to write a good female character? I mean, considering the vast diversity in male characters, whether they're funny, serious, complex, lovable losers, all loving heroes, jerks with hearts of gold, and so on. Don't you think you should be fighting for more females in these roles if you want true equality? I'm not saying these kinds of female characters don't exist, and again, I probably listed quite a few of them earlier, but for some reason they're nowhere near as emphasized as the badass female warrior types. And the problem with these characters is that they're usually all around perfect, with very little flaws and very boring personalities. Is this really how girls want to see themselves portrayed on TV or on the big screen? From what I can gather, this trope most likely originated from Hollywood misunderstanding what the feminists wanted when they said they wanted stronger female characters. What they meant is that they wanted female characters with more depth and development, that female audiences would actually relate to and not view themselves as the second sex, so to speak. But instead, the bigwigs in Hollywood just took it literally, to mean women who are actually physically strong, and so just about the majority of female characters are like that nowadays. And no one listens to them when they say they want less of that because that's what we asked for, right? So yeah, all I'm asking for is more variety in female characters. Make them funny, relatable, likable, fun, complex, all that great stuff we love in a hero, or even in a villain. I honestly don't get why it's such a hard concept to have a well-written protagonist who just happens to be female. I mean, if freaking Pixar, which is infamous for being an old boys club, can write a fleshed out female lead which audiences can relate to, it shouldn't be that hard for anyone who understands the basics of story and character development.
Yeah, I could do without the word bitchin'. I could also do without that weird trope in movies where only after a woman has extreme violence brought against her by being, I don't know, shot in the head, or, raped, that she comes into her true strength and power.
Oh good, at least that means she won't be praising Maleficent. Cause, it's not like we can have a female protagonist without sexualizing her, am I right? Daria.
Also, it implies that a woman can only be badass if she assumes violent and traditionally masculine tendencies.
Oh, you're so good at acting. You could be a man. It's amazing.
Oh my god, what is with you people? First you say there should be more strong woman roles, but no, women can't be strong because that's masculine. Will you make up your minds already? Yes, I understand that the issue is nowhere as black and white as everyone makes it out to be. Yes, it's still possible to have a female character who's feminine but can still hold up a good fight. And yes, we mostly just want female characters who are well written and relatable. That's what my last point was all about. But when you spend the majority of your video up to that point gushing about badass action girls, only to turn around and declare them men with vaginas, you might want to reconsider what even is your main argument, because it feels like you're just making it up as you go along. And trust me, I've learned that the hard way.
Plus, for supposedly self-actualized and independent woman, she sure does talk about Bill a whole lot.
Where's Bill? I don't know who Bill is. Bullshit!
Again, that's why there exists media where women do have story and character arcs that don't relate back to men. Just watch Inside Out or The Buzz on Maggie if you're curious to know how. Okay, I'm just stating up front that I've never seen Kill Bill, nor do I think I'd want to, but I'm assuming Ski Hound has, since he brought this up. The bride talks about Bill so much because he attempted to fucking murder her. That's what kicks off the entire plot of the film and why she wants to seek revenge to begin with. Boy, Wilbur sure does talk about Fern a lot, doesn't he? Not to mention his ass would be bacon if it weren't for Charlotte. And for that matter, Quasimodo sure is obsessed with that Esmeralda chick, isn't he? So I guess these two films must be anti-men then. And as a man, I find this insulting. I'm gonna join MGTOW. And then they just prattle on about Carrie for a bit, and I feel like I'll just be repeating myself. So I'll just skip ahead to when they discuss Animaniacs, as this is where things get interesting. Like, really interesting. As in, this is what made me decide to do this commentary to begin with.
God, I love Dot. She's adorable, and she's clever, but she's not afraid to speak her mind.
And there's never been female characters like that before? Wasn't there a certain Disney film about an adorable teenage girl who liked reading all the time and was willing to speak her mind?
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
Well, some people use their imagination.
And what about that other Disney movie about the little blonde girl exploring that weird fantasy world and all her snarky reactions to it all?
Write that down! Twinkle, 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 twinkle. What next?
And speaking of snarky blonde girls, are you seriously going to overlook Lisa Simpson? Lisa Simpson, one of the most universally acclaimed and hated feminist characters in recent history? What, Lisa Simpson, who's that? And need I remind you of that recently discovered microdria specimen?
And Slappy the Squirrel is great because she shows women that you don't have to be happy and cute all the time.
'Cause that's never been done before, am I right? Look, I agree there should be more variety in female characters, as I previously stated earlier when discussing the strong female character archetype. And I do think Slappy Squirrel is a good character. But you're acting as though she's a huge groundbreaker for animated women. Can't you just let a character be a character? For the sake of this argument, I'm going to ignore Daria and other characters that came after the premiere of Animaniacs. And I obviously won't count villainous characters, since you could argue they're implying it's wrong for women to be total sourpusses. However, if we look at the world of comic books, you'll notice that a lot of the female heroes, yeah, say what you want about their outfits, but you'll notice that a lot of them aren't your typical spunky, happy-go-lucky Genki girl. They know they have to be badass in order to withstand the badass situations they get into, and a lot of them pull it off pretty well. Also, going back to Alice in Wonderland, not the Tim Burton version but the Walt Disney version, as I said earlier, Alice wasn't exactly a Stepford Smiler either. I mean, true, she is often seen smiling, especially on promotional material, but she was also easily annoyed by the inhabitants of Wonderland, especially those intentionally teasing her like the Cheshire Cat. She's just like, ugh, really, Blanik? Also, the fairies from Sleeping Beauty, while friendly and caring, often got into fights with each other, particularly over what colour Aurora's birthday dress should be. And even the Disney princesses, which came afterwards, had their moments of frustration, anger, awkwardness, or whatever other emotion isn't strictly happy, or strictly isn't happy. I'm just saying, as much as the diversity of female characters should be improved, it's certainly nowhere as abysmal as you're making it out to be. And why is it bad for women to smile anyway? Like, what if she's genuinely happy? I mean, isn't feminism supposed to be about empowering women? I mean, that's meant to be uplifting, right? So, if a woman can't even smile when she's at her happiest, then how the fuck is she meant to express herself?
And then Minerva Mink and Marita the Hippo. I mean, two women owning the shit out of their sexuality, but they both have wildly different body types.
Wait. Sexuality? I mean, I understand with Minerva, but how is Marita sexualized? I'm not saying that because she's chubby. I mean, there's plenty of gorgeous BBWs out there, but I don't recall Marita being any more sexualized than her husband Flavio. After all, who doesn't love chubby guys? You're acting as though sex appeal can only be done with women. I mean, if you're lesbian or bisexual, that's completely fine. People should be allowed to be themselves and all that stuff. But that still doesn't change the fact that straight women, you know, those attracted to men, exist. Why do you think so many girls obsess over Justin Bieber and One Direction?
Everybody likes The Notebook. Everybody likes Beyonce. It's just a fact.
Ah, shut up. Look, if a woman wants to be sexy and is not pressured into it at all, she has every right to be so long as she doesn't go overboard with it. However, to claim she's sexy just because she's female is to completely disregard those who find men more attractive. It's kind of like those people in the brony fandom who masturbate to cartoon ponies purely because they're female and for no other reason. Like, is this really how society should view women, as mere sex objects?
Not to mention Rita the Cat, who is in a very meaningful platonic relationship with a male.
Mary Poppins and Bert, Casper and Wendy, Eleanor and Colonel Brandon, Joe and Laurie, Clarissa and Sam, Zach and Jesse, Slothboy and DiCaprio. You see where I'm going with this?
She even sings an entire song about not wanting to have children and how her biological clock shouldn't dictate her reproductive choices.
I'm nobody's mama.
And once again, I refer you to Mary Poppins. Instead of having children, she looks after someone else's. Okay, maybe that's not the best example. But have you ever noticed that Mickey and Minnie Mouse never get married? For all we know, maybe one of the reasons for that is because Minnie doesn't want to have children. Because, hey, she is a mouse, and they're infamous for breeding like crazy. Now, granted, being married doesn't guarantee having kids, or vice versa. But, you know, it is still a possibility. Like, maybe she's worried she won't be able to resist the temptation. Yeah, I just realized I'm starting to apply real-world logic to a cartoon of all things, but that's kind of what these guys are doing, so I'm just trying to use their own logic against them, you know? Also, what if a woman wants to have kids? Not because of her biological clock or because it's her ultimate purpose in life, but maybe she wants them for the same reason a man might want kids. You know, to keep the family name alive, to have heirs to leave their belongings to. That is, assuming we're talking about self-made women and or those who keep their maiden names, which are quite common in today's society. After all, who wouldn't be proud to say that their mother is the CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation, or a world-famous musician, you know, an actually talented musician? Well, okay, maybe these guys wouldn't be proud of it, but most men nowadays are all for it, myself included. So yeah, a woman not having kids isn't anything new, and those who do shouldn't be shamed for it. And I'm skipping a bit more since they do make good points about Hello Nurse being a bombshell who happens to be smart. Kinda like my avatar. and how the show isn't as misandrist as one might think. And they also talk about Johnny Bravo, though I don't have much to say on that part, so...
I want to talk about Clueless, the movie.
No, it's Clueless.
That movie deals with sex remarkably. Cher is a virgin, but it's not a problem. I mean, Dion chides her a little bit, but no one makes her feel bad, and no one tries to guilt her into sex.
I am just not interested in doing it until I find the right person.
Wait, I thought it was men who are shamed for being virgins. Aren't women shamed for being sluts and revered for their virginity? Are you talking about being shamed by radical feminists? If so, you could just as easily ignore those types of feminists, as do a lot of women, because, after all, why should anyone associate with a bunch of sexist dicks?
Ty, on the other hand, has tons of sex, but nobody calls her a slut because of it.
Just as long as his you-know-what isn't crooked.
Well, that's nice of everyone not to slut-shame Ty, but does a woman's entire self-worth, or a female lead's character arc, have to relate to whether she's a virgin or a slut? I mean, a lot of the stuff I've watched with female leads didn't center around their gender or sexuality that much. Again, that's sort of what I was referring to with all the female leads I listed off earlier at the beginning. And I'm guessing that's what Katie, I believe her name is, meant with this bit from earlier.
I could also do without that weird trope in movies where only after a woman has extreme violence brought against her by being, I don't know, shot in the head, or, raped, that she comes into her true strength and power.
Well, mostly the rape bit, but you get the idea. And I'm just going to skip again, since they bring up two characters fucking in a pool, which I have no comment on. And Katie brings up a decent point, that not needing a man isn't the same as not wanting a man.
Okay, so in order to have a feminist movie, you have to have female characters who don't rely on hypermasculinity to be awesome, showcase a variety of complex personalities without relying on shitty gender stereotypes unless they want to.
Well, then you must hate Inside Out. For the wrong reasons.
And openly express their love and sexuality in a way that isn't dependent on men.
To start, but yeah.
Okay, then I got one.
Bet you don't.
Super Troopers.
See?
Okay, the most feminist movie you can think of is a stoner comedy with 6 dude highway patrolmen.
Well, if Steven Universe gets praised for being feminist despite having a male protagonist, and for not being anti-men despite having strong female characters make up most of the main cast, then Michael might have a point about Super Troopers. Also, you're one to talk considering you're making a feminist YouTube video with mostly male regressive dorks. Wait, what's that noise? Oh boy, somebody left the door open. And now there's a Mutabarosaurus in the room. Great, so we're ripping off the nostalgia critic, are we?
You know, pointing out your problems doesn't make them go away, love.
Okay, what do you want?
You realise you're leaving out an all-important phrase that gets thrown around in these social justice circles all the time.
Look, I'm not using those words on my channel, unless I'm specifically debunking those words in the topic I'm covering. You got that?
But Skihound specifically said the group consists mainly of what—
Shut up! I don't care! That phrase is one of the vilest, most misogynistic, condescending things you can ever say, period. It's basically telling girls that they're worthless and will never amount to anything in life. And I can only imagine how they feel knowing they have to put up with hearing it, whether online or on college campuses. Or is that Campai? I'm not quite sure.
Geesh, lady, I was just trying to help.
Thanks, but I just want to address the points being made in the video, alright?
Oh, really? Is that why you're dragging out this unfunny skip for too long? Alright, I'll go. Sheesh, I never knew Mexican Sheilas could get so aggro.
Yeah, I'm a gypsy, thank you very much.
Hey, you can't say that anymore. The correct term is Romany American.
Do I have to?
Well, that's political correctness for you. It just keeps getting worse. Anyway, I gotta go now. See ya!
Well, suit yourself. Okay, that was weird. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Super Troopers is apparently feminist despite having a mostly male cast. So, let's see where this is going.
Think about it though, Ursula is a police officer, yet she's stuck on radio duty because she works with a bunch of aggro dipshits.
Oh, so basically it's a live-action Zootopia.
Well, around my house, my wife knows to refill the TP.
I'm not your wife's my.
No, and if you were, I'd take you down a peg or two.
However, she organizes the big drug ring bust at the end of the movie so well that even though the guys are shit-faced, everything still works out.
Yeah, you know, I always loved that she wasn't a wet blanket when it came to dicking around.
Baby, I'm gonna butter your bread.
Or vagging around in this particular situation.
Wouldn't that technically be minging around or muffing around? Saying she's vagging around would be the female equivalent of peening around, since they're both based on the medical terms for their respective body parts, whereas dicking around is based on a slang term for the male genitalia. Or if dicking around is based on the other sense of dick, meaning an unlikable man, then you could say she's bitching around.
Yeah, I could do without the word bitchin'.
And yet you're fine with using derogatory terms against men? You gotta love double standards.
Also, the German woman in the Porsche, I like her.
Of course, you did. She's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, beautiful person in a German sports car. You are becoming a stereotype of yourself.
Wow. Way to be racist against people of hair color. Okay, I get that you're making a reference to the Nazis and their ideal image of the pure Aryan race. And I get that that was meant to be a joke, but if you're trying to call out people for not being progressive, you could run the risk of mixing up your messages a bit. You realise that Riley Anderson, the main human character from Inside Out, is a blue-eyed blonde, right? Is she a member of the Übermensch? And not only that, but Queen Elsa is a blue-eyed blonde, and she's from a film that gets tons of praise for being progressive with its themes of independence and sisterly love. Surely the SJWs would call the film out for blonde washing or some stupid shit like that. Also, remember this bit from the Yoram Gross film adaptation of Blinky Bill?
I sure do love those country girls with the big blue eyes and the long blonde curls earring.
So, Blinky Bill's a Nazi, huh? Who knew? Except the film was produced, directed, and written by a Jew! No, I'm serious. Yoram Gross lived in Europe during World War II, and he had to face the troubles of trying to escape the Nazis and their evil doings. So if he approved of a harmless musical number about blonde girls with blue eyes, then that should tell you something. Anyways, you get the idea, so let's see what else is in store for us today.
Or I'm just owning what I am, like all of the other wonderful women we've discussed this evening. That German couple isn't just using their sexuality again.
Yada yada yada, more stuff about sexuality, so skip.
She decides to get frisked. Meanwhile, her husband's sitting there watching the whole thing with what I must assume is just the boner. Her sexuality doesn't belong to anyone.
So, now we're promoting female adultery, huh? You know, this is probably the main reason why women are being taken less seriously nowadays. Because some women take advantage of their status as the pure, innocent sex that can do no harm to cheat on men, sexually harass men, molest little boys. You know, the kind of stuff that would land men in jail for at least 60 years. It's only creating a more misogynistic society, as these women make their own gender look bad, and thus more men hate women as a result. And the thing is, most women don't want to be treated like this, and they constantly try to prove that not all women are willing to go to these lengths to degrade men like this. All they want is to be treated as equal members of society. They don't want stuff handed to them, and they don't want to be held back. They just want to be treated as normal, everyday people. Why is that such a hard concept to grasp? And I'm stopping it there since there's not much more after that. My final thoughts? While it's not quite as bad as I remember from my initial viewing, it's still a pretty pointless video to exist. As I said, there have been plenty of female characters that were well written, complex, strong, independent, and all that stuff you love in a hero, and they're fairly common in this day and age. So the fact that you guys, and plenty of other people online, are treating this as something new, is only going to further women's status as a disadvantaged group. but I'll get to that Mutabarosaurus in a later video. If you want women to be treated as equals, then try treating them as equals yourself. That's why I still fondly remember shows like The Buzz on Maggie, CJ the DJ, and The Wild Thornberrys, and trust me, that's only to name a few. If I listed them all, we'd be here all day. Because they didn't constantly dwell on the main character's gender or their relationships with the other sex, but instead treated their female characters as actual characters. And plus, they actually had good characters and stories that made these shows enjoyable to watch. If you're looking for a movie that does this well, I would recommend Inside Out. It's a creative film that explores the mind of a young girl, and the shenanigans her anthropomorphized emotions get up to. It also focuses heavily on joy and sadness, voiced by Amy Poehler and Phyllis Smith respectively, as they journey through Riley's mind and discover all sorts of weird oddities. It's one of Pixar's best films in my opinion, and I bet Alison Bechdel would be mighty proud of its portrayal of its female leads. And even people who dislike this movie, or even just think it's okay, generally don't dislike it just because the main characters are women. They actually have legitimate problems with the plot and character arcs. Just watch Your Movie Sucks' review of the film if you want more info on that. And before you go calling me a misogynist mansplainer or any of that stuff, I made a commentary on Lindy Beige's actress rant, and guess what? I was constantly labelled an SJW, and one person even assumed I hang out on Tumblr, probably as a joke. So who's to say I need to check my privilege, so to speak? And most of what I said in this video is because all I want is for girls and women to live in a world where they can just be themselves, do what they enjoy doing, and pursue their lifelong ambitions, and not have their entire existence revolve around their gender and sexuality. You know, being treated as equals to men. Not superior, not inferior, just equals. Because to them, femaleness is just normal, and all they want is for it to be treated as such. And the fact that you labelled your video as feminist just proves how much you don't understand what girls actually want. You just want to make women feel bad about themselves just for existing. Thus you're ultimately disempowering them from doing anything. I hope that someday you wake up and realise the damage you're causing to women's dignity in our society, and that you legitimately try to improve your content in the future, because I know you have the potential to pull that off. So, with that, I bid you all adieu. And that's the video. Have I improved since my Lindy Beige commentary, or have I screwed up even further? Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, I have an Ask FM page if you'd much prefer to ask questions there. And thank you so much Skihound for discussing Crack.com's video with me on Skype, and bringing those extra points to the table. Even if you did go a bit too far with that last point. But that's okay, because I forgive you, and your heart was obviously in the right place here. So if there's anything I can help you with, feel free to let me know. And that's pretty much all I have to say for now. This is ARC the Clarinet Master, signing off.
Boo!